Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your sun in Gemini and your moon in Leo. This combination is called a sextile, but technically you will have to look at an aspects table to see if they actually form a sextile, which is a cooperative angle of 60 degrees. But regardless, these two elements are considered compatible, air and fire, and they're masculine signs, Gemini and Leo, and masculine elements, meaning that they are extroverted. They are, so extroversion means that the person is comfortable directing their energy outwards. They're not trying to be more introverted, keeping to themselves. Um, extroverted people love, a lot of noise and parties and things, big gatherings. Introverted people prefer quiet environs and small, intimate gatherings and, quiet pursuits. So you may enjoy being where the action is. You do have to look at some of your other inner points, like what is your rising sign? What if your rising sign is Cancer or Virgo or something very like a feminine sign that is very nondescript or that is very quiet, even something like Pisces, although Pisces can be the chameleon, and I feel Pisces can give it the old college try and be very, resembling some other more extroverted sign. But let's say it's Virgo, which can be um, more subdued, then perhaps, I don't know. I think that your sun and moon would definitely overpower your rising sign in that case. So I think there's a pretty good chance that you are somebody who is very expressive in life in a public kind of way. And so when we talk about the sun and moon, we're talking about the masculine, feminine elements. Now I'm talking about in terms of what the sun represents versus the moon. The sun is the father, the moon is the mother, and that means that the sun represents the career and the goals, and the moon is the emotional nature, what the person needs to feel safe. Well, in this particular case, because of the moon being Leo and Leo being a fire sign, you find you feel safe when you're being looked at and recognized. So people with the moon in Leo can have, I don't want to call it an unconscious need. It may be something that they are aware of, and something that if they didn't get when they were growing up, it bothers them. If like you were ignored when you were growing up, if maybe you came from a big family and you were in the middle. It's funny because it reminds me of that episode from the Brady Bunch, and I think it was Jan. Once again, Marsha. No, but because she was, her pecking order out of the six was smack dab in the middle. So sometimes it could be something like that. Maybe you were dealing with parents who were very self-involved and they just were totally uh, worried about themselves and not really giving enough attention to their children. There's all kinds of reasons why that could happen, but you might feel this real need to be acknowledged. And I always say that the moon is the shadow self. So when I say shadow self, I mean it can show up as a more problematic elements of that sign. So, what are the problematic elements of Leo? Haughtiness or being arrogant, thinking you're better than other people. Now, remember, because this is the moon position, this could be kind of like trying to kind of make the person trying to make themselves feel better because, deep down inside, they really have felt overlooked. This could result in the attention seeking individual. The person who does things to have people put their eyes on them instead of, just being a normal. No, don't take that the wrong way. I'm being a normal person, but people who are hams who really try to, um, and this some of it comes from having the desire to perform. But you know how some people are always on and they're always like in that mode? That could be something that is like a natural inclination that you have. And part of the reason, if you really dig down deep, uh, could be because you feel that sense of wanting to um, be acknowledged and not be ignored. I was thinking about, now I'm thinking about Glenn Close. I won't be ignored. But yeah, with the sun in Gemini, you're very witty. You're very clever. You can be highly intelligent, but you can also be clever, meaning that you come up with these great one-liners or comebacks if somebody disses you. And they're always going to have like that tinge of sarcasm attached to it. You know, Geminis can be snarky. You can win at a Trivial Pursuit or Jeopardy. Not, is that, yeah, Jeopardy. You can be great for something like that. This combination is great for the arts, especially like the theater, where if you're a playwright, if you are in the advertising industry making, um, kind of like, what do they call those catchphrases that are used to hook people and connect them to certain products. It's interesting, come to think of it, that Paul McCartney has this combination actually. His sun is in a late degree of Gemini, very close to Cancer, and his moon is in Leo. And I always think back to this one time when I think it was in this book by John Lennon's lover, May Pang, where she describes Paul McCartney coming to visit John in New York, and he like kept looking at this piano that was in the room, and finally he had to sit down and start playing it. It was like he was probably trying everything he could to resist being that ham, that performer, but he just couldn't do it. And, as we know with somebody like Paul McCartney, who's, a musical genius, that when those kinds of things are channeled in a constructive way, the person can really, show how brilliant they are, or talented they are. And so I'm not suggesting that anybody with the moon in Leo is just this attention whore and they have nothing to show for it. I mean, you could be multi-talented. But I think there's always a part of me that looks at what could be the challenge with this with any combination. And that's why I kind of like went there. But yeah, I mean, this could be a person who's very fun loving and who's very fun to be around, actually. It's, you probably are really humorous. You're probably a big-headed heart. The moon in Leo will make you warm. Gemini as a sign isn't necessarily warm. You can be friendly, but you can be detached at the same time. This gives you that extra oomph when it comes to being warm, and therefore, uh, if you have a relationship, that's going to help you, because I don't think of Geminis as romantic, but I certainly do with Leo. And because your sun is in Gemini, you may have inner planets in either Leo or whatchamacallit, Cancer. Cancer placements can be very sentimental, and that can be romantic, but Leo can as well. And then on the other side, Taurus. And definitely Taurus can be that way, or even Aries for that matter. So Mars in Aries, or um, Mars in Leo, but having this passionate side to yourself. So, what kind of occupations could this combination suggest? Well, I would say anything with the arts, but especially if it involves, um, like I mentioned Paul McCartney, but he was also a lyricist, and he had great um, a talent for writing lyrics, poetry, if you will. But of course, he was a great composer. I shouldn't say was, is. And in terms of being a teacher, this would be a great combination for that, because Leo rules the fifth house, which can be about children. And with Gemini, there's always that interest in being a lifelong learner, but maybe being a great teacher. And maybe a stand-up comedian. There's so many things that Geminis can do because they're so versatile. In terms of your love life, this combination, being double masculine, needs a lot of freedom. You cannot tolerate people who try to hold you down because they want to possess you. Um, but you do have a very ardent nature, love nature. So this could lead, if the person is not mature enough, to having a bunch of affairs. I'm not talking about cheating on anyone necessarily. I'm talking more about being in love with love and wanting that variety that Gemini seeks. So it might be that perhaps you are a late bloomer when it comes to commitment. Maybe it does take you into your 30s before you're willing to commit. And that might be fine and dandy for you. That might be something that works for you. So it's not to say that that would be a bad thing. I think that once you meet the right person, it can be for life. When it comes to the type of relationship that you're looking for, I think you're looking for a relationship that is not, um, just going through the motions of adulthood, meaning that the people are overly serious in that relationship and playing the part of the the adult couple that is so responsible and serious. You want to be spontaneous. You want to be playful. The You want flexibility with your sun in Gemini. You could get bored easily if you're not careful. Although I will say that because Leo is a fixed sign and it is your emotional nature, you're not going to be as fickle as the typical Gemini person might be in love. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.